So as you know, I've been working on my solar panels for the last several months, trying to make them better. As I've said in previous videos, I was only getting 25 amps of the 50 amps of my solar panels into the batteries. I really didn't have time to focus on it for the first 2 years that we'd been here. Well, then Carolyn's son moved on the property. We bought that camper, and he moved on the property, and he needed more electric than what we could provide. So I started really looking into what my problem was with the solar panels, and I figured out that my charge controller was only putting in 25 amps into the system, even though I had 50 amps available. I assume what happened is the charge controller thinks I have one battery at 100 amps, and so it was only putting in 25% of the amperage of the battery. So the battery, if it thought the battery was 100%, 25% of that would have been 25 amps. So I got a second charge controller and it fixed the problem. Now I'm getting, in some cases when I'm running the well, 58 amps. So out of 60, so I got 12 solar panels now. And the system's working a lot better. Been telling you that I've been running the well pump off of it. And I can even run the well pump on pretty cloudy days. Now on totally cloudy days, that's not happening. But on partly cloudy days, if I can get some sunlight and I can get about 20 amps for a few hours, everything's fine. So it's been pretty exciting here recently. But the one thing I struggled with is my batteries. Now I know that everybody's going to come screaming at me once again, you need to get lithium ion batteries. I mean, I just had a guy yesterday and he says, I watch all your videos. Well, if he watched all my videos, he would know that I literally said in a previous video, don't email me telling me to get lithium ion batteries. I'm not going to do it. Call me old school, call me stupid, call me whatever you want, but I'm not going to do it. I like lead acid batteries. I understand them. They seem to make sense for me for a variety of reasons. One being heat, or cold I should say. You're not allowed to charge these batteries below 50 degrees unless you want to use more electricity and put a heater in there to keep them warm. Well, I don't. So lead acid I don't have to keep warm. That being said, I knew I was having a problem and I just wasn't sure what it was, and I thought it was with the batteries. So I've been really trying to figure out if there's something wrong with my batteries. I've been isolating the batteries. I haven't talked to you about this until now. Now I would check it with the charge controller, and I would check it with the battery charger. I was checking the fluids, and everything seemed to be working out fine. So I should have 800 amp hours, which should have gotten me through the night relatively easily to run the freezer. But it wasn't. Now, when Carolyn's son was here, I just assumed he was using electric that we just didn't have available, and that was fine. I mean, I wasn't complaining about it. I'd start the generator up in the morning, keep myself a little charged. Let me explain what happens. So at nighttime, I should be going to bed with about 12.7 volts in the battery. I would prefer 12.8 or 12.9, but 12.7 is about the minimum I can do. When her son was here, it was 12.7 every night. And I thought, see, it should be getting up to 12.8 at least. But 12.7. And so when I get up in the morning, it was always at 12.3, which is the minimum I'm supposed to be at. So I would get up in the morning, I'd start the generator to charge it up just so it would last a couple hours. Meaning, I get up at 5 o'clock, the sun doesn't come up until, well, the sun doesn't actually start hitting the solar panels until 9 o'clock. But if I can make it to 8 o'clock, there was enough sun that I wouldn't have to worry about it. So I'd run the generator for half hour, 45 minutes. And it wasn't a big deal. It just, I didn't want to run the generator at all. Well, when he left, things got a tad bit better, but not to the point that I thought it should have been. I mean, it was getting down to 12.4, which was okay. But one morning I woke up and it was flashing between 12.3 and 12.4. It was kind of going back and forth. And I just couldn't figure it out. So it was getting kind of frustrating. So I decided what I was going to do was I was going to buy another battery. Now, I probably will need another battery anyways for the winter, because during the winter time, all batteries, even Life Pro for life, whatever batteries they wanted me to buy for $1,000 a piece, in the wintertime, they're still going to be less efficient. Imagine your car, when you go out there in your car and it's 1 degree outside and you go, rrr, rrr, rrr. It just pulled all those amps out. Even new batteries will struggle with that. It's not that you got a bad battery, it's cold. Now, a lot of people seem to think that's because of the motor oil is thick and it just really struggles to pull all that cold oil, which is partly true. But let's just go over to a cell phone, which has lithium batteries in it. If you take your cell phone outside for 10 minutes and temperatures are 1 degree, your battery will die. I have a problem with my camera in these kind of temperatures. The battery is a rechargeable lithium battery, and I better bring 2 of them out when I come out, 1 in my pocket, 1 in the camera. And if I don't finish the video within 15-20 minutes, that battery's dead and I got to switch it out. So cold weather zaps batteries. So this winter, I'm going to have to get another battery regardless, with me getting down so low on amps at nighttime, just running that freezer. The other thing that I had to consider is we just got the freezer not that long ago, last winter actually, and I haven't really researched how much more amperage or how much more it was running than the refrigerator did. So I kept thinking, well, maybe the freezer just pulls more than the refrigerator, which I didn't think it did. But if it's running more, which is possible, it could be running more than the refrigerator did, then maybe I'm just pulling more watts per hour. The other thing I thought is, since it's so hot now, remember in the wintertime, now somebody's going to tell me to put the freezer outside. You can't put the freezer outside. The thermostat stops working below 40 degrees. So if you don't get below freezing outside, your outside temperatures don't get below 32 degrees, your meat's going to start to thaw out. You have to buy specific freezers that will kick on even if the temperature is cold outside. So you got to watch that. And I don't have one of those. And the reason I know this is because when we had that refrigerator in the camper, when we got here, we took it out of the camper and took it outside. And it just wouldn't run. All the meat thawed out. I started researching, and that's why. So in the wintertime, we got to run that wood stove, and it sits relatively close to the wood stove. Of course, we live in a tiny house. What choice do we have? So it would run more. And then when summertime hit, and Carolyn's son was here, I just figured, well, the freezer's running more, and he's using electric at night. We're just using more electric than what I got stored in batteries. So again, kept thinking I was going to have to get another battery. As a matter of fact, I started pricing them just maybe a couple weeks ago. So now he's gone. I left the camper plugged in, and I just made sure everything was off inside. I didn't go around clicking the breaker box, but I went and shut off all the lights and unplugged everything. But nothing really changed that much from where it had been. So again, I just thought, well, maybe that freezer's running more. So Carolyn's been cleaning up the camper and washing things and just scrubbing, giving her something to do, I guess. Well, the other day, I unplugged the camper, and I woke up the next morning, and I was at 12.4 volts. Now, when I say that, there's 2 different gauges that I have that I can read off of. My charge controller will tell me how many volts the battery has. So I have 2 charge controllers, and they always read the same. So one says 12.3 or 12.4, the other one will say 12.3 or 12.4. But then when I plug in the battery chargers, I got 2 of those, they always read the same, but they always read 1.1 volt higher than the charge controllers. Don't know why, but they've always done it that way. So I don't know which one is correct, since both charge controllers say the same thing and both battery chargers say the same thing. You would think if one was inaccurate, the other 3 would be the same, but it's not. It's 50-50. I always assumed that you got a little leeway with that 12.3. They say that if you get your battery below 12.3 volts, that you half the life of the battery. And I don't even know how true that is. Let me back up for a second. They do say that 12.3 or lower, well, 12.2 and lower, you're going to half the life of the battery. So if your battery is worth 5 years, you've just knocked it down to 2.5 years. And then again, if you do it again, you're going to knock it down to what, 1.25 years. Well, I've been below 12.3 before, specifically in wintertime. So I always thought maybe that measurement isn't too accurate. But here's a measurement that I do think is more accurate. They also say that you need to get your batteries, your lead acid batteries, up to 13.6 volts every day. Because if you don't, it's going to half the life of the battery. Well, if you think about your car, if your car sits around too long with your battery below 13.6, because when you shut off your car, your battery will drop down to about 12.9, 12.8 fully charged. Well, then the next day, it doesn't get up to 13.6, it stays at 12.9. Well, they say that you're going to hurt your battery if you do that. You have to start your engine every day, apparently. Now, I'm not saying you should go do that, but I don't do it. But my house batteries, the RV marine batteries that I buy from Walmart, I do get up to 13.6 every day, no matter what happens. As a matter of fact, I always try to get them up to 14.4 volts. So the other morning, I got up and the charge controller said 12.3 and the battery charger said 12.4, which was a little bit higher than normal, than what I've been getting. This is after I unplugged the camper. I didn't think anything of it. It was a little cool morning, so I thought maybe the freezer didn't run as much. Well, last night, it was warmer than the night before. And I came down here, and the charge controller said 12.4. The battery charger said 12.5. That is much higher than what I've been at. Also, before I went to bed last night, the charge controller said 12.8, which means the battery charger would have said 12.9, which is exactly where I want it when I go to bed. So something occurred to me. There must be something in the camper that is running in the background that I'm not aware of. Now, I know that it has a converter, and I shut the converter off. The converter changes AC electric into DC electric, so when you hook up to shore power, you can still run your lights and different things. Well, I shut that off. It makes a noise, so you know when it's running, and it pulls quite a bit of amps. I forget what it was, but it was like 50 amps or something. It was pretty high. So when her son was here, I told him, don't flip that breaker on. And we gave him some lights, little touch lights. We also gave him a rechargeable light. So I thought we had all situated, that we weren't using any extra amperage than what was needed. But when I unplugged the camper the other day, batteries are in great shape. I may not even need to get a battery this winter. I mean, I might still, but man, we got a lot of electricity left over. Another thing I was thinking is, like I said in the beginning of the video, I felt like maybe I had damaged a battery. You know, I've been pulling a lot of electric in different areas, but once again, the oldest battery there is at least 3.5 years old, and the rest of them, you know, you're not supposed to, but I put battery in as I needed them. You're supposed to replace the whole set, but as I needed a battery, I added a battery. So it seems like my system is about as good as it can get now. I understand somebody is going to email me and tell me, you need a lithium-ion battery, and I understand that so many people love those batteries. I'm just not going to get one. I'm quite satisfied with what I got. Here's the thing I see. Maybe lithium-ion batteries are good if you're living in a van and you can keep it warm and you want to worry about weight. But I don't need to worry about weight. Here, and then another reason you might want lithium-ion is if you're using your solar panel system as an emergency backup. You don't want to have to make sure they get up to 13.6 volts every day. That kind of makes sense. But with me, I'm living on this thing. I just find it interesting how many people email me and tell me I'm dumb and I need to do it differently when I'm living this way. I understand that I don't have all the information available because I've never actually used lithium-ion batteries. But if I'm living this way and it is working for me, then I don't see why I need to go out and make drastic changes, expensive changes, just to see if I like it. Oh, you're gonna love it. How do you know? You don't know me at all. I'm pretty stubborn sometimes. And that's just who I am. I don't need to make a big change in my life. I'm happy. So again, if you want lithium ion, by all means, you should go get it. If you feel like that the salesmen on YouTube, which that's all they are, who are trying to sell this, and the link in the description box below, then you should buy it from them. I understand you have YouTubers that you trust. And I'm not trying to sell you anything. That's the thing. That's why I'm so confused by this. I'm supposed to go over to this YouTube channel and listen to him about lithium-ion batteries, and then he says, for a link to my Amazon account, and you can buy them, and I make a small percentage of it, click in the link in the description below. Well, in mine, you don't have a link in the description below. I just tell you go to Walmart and pick up a battery. So if you don't want to trust me, and you want to trust the snake oil guys, it's fine by me. So if you'll click this up next box, take you to a video where I was talking about preppers stockpiling. I don't think it's a good idea. So I hope I can inspire you to be smart so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.